What?
It said recording in progress. I just started the recording.
So I hope everybody, you guys who are behind me on the screen. This is kind of weird because, you know, from here, you're looking at me, from there, they're looking at me, so. One of you, pardon my back. I'm making up the speech as I go along. So, you know, again, you know, what's coming about? Maybe we'll get some color this year. Who knows? I don't think it's been, color hasn't been all that great for the last couple of years, but maybe we'll get some color this year. Get out and do some stuff. As far as club business is concerned, just a reminder that next month we will be where, right? We'll be down. We'll be in Chesterfield. It'll be in the newsletter and the address and everything. So just remember that we're not coming here, we're going downtown. And what else? Frank, who has graciously agreed to head up the nomination committee for new officers for next year. Frank, you want to tell us about it?
Well, I am trying to find out what exactly the duties are, but I do have a committee. Roger O'Quinn and Anita Storino have graciously agreed to participate in the effort, and recently I chatted with Nancy to find out exactly what it is we're supposed to do, and now I understand that I'll be giving some instructions to our committee, and we'll follow through, and hopefully we'll be able to come up with a slate for the appropriate meeting.
Yeah, well, that's basically it, to come up with a slate of officers for, you know, so actually, I think we have to vote on the nomination committee. So all in favor? You're officially.
All opposed? Oh. Sorry.
You can't vote. So yeah, next month it'll be good. I mean, you can canvass the current officers and see if they want to stay on. If they want to stay on in their current roles, that's great. And you can find another person to be the president. So I've been president for 3 years, and it's getting a little stale. I think you guys could. What are you agreeing with me for? Come on. But no, I really do believe that it would be good for the club to have somebody else as president. We've had a hell of a 3 years. But we managed to stay together in large part due to everybody here in the club who has participated in everything that we've done. It's been really good. It's been really an honor and a sincere pleasure for me to be president. But I think again, for the benefit of the club, we're better off if we have some new blood in this position. And let's see what else. MJ, you gonna do your ritual begging?
Yes. Here's your personal groveling. Of course, we need submissions for that shot for Chuck's challenges, and that's humor, images, what's this, famous person, or myth shot. And we haven't been getting too many world we've seen with our camera submissions.
What was that?
The world that we've seen with our cameras. So
That we see with our cameras.
yeah, it's. I guess it would be checking up with the idea. It's kind of like street photography with a historical bit to it. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you just have an history in the making, so to speak. Yeah.
So, you know, it could be something quite incidental that happened when you were walking along and you saw a building being torn down or something. Anyway, we'd love to get more of those. Don't forget that we already mentioned the exhibit in the library, right?
Yeah, well, Jordan mentioned that, we have the exhibit coming up in the library. I guess the hang date will be November 1st. And we're supposed to get some information to, is it Anita?
Patricia.
Patricia.
That's right.
Yeah, I've never seen the two of you in the same place at the same time. So, I'm kind of thinking that they're the same person. No. I always get it.
But that's on the 10th of October, so this is coming up, so please think about what you're gonna be putting into the show.
And how do we do that? We send her an email?
Yeah, send her an email, and all you have to do is provide the title and the fact that you're committing to participate.
The title and
That you're committing to participate.
okay. And her email is something like 3Cub Photographer.
Like that.
It's in the
But it's
newsletter.
in the roster.
It's in the newsletter and in her roster.
It's there. Also, getting back to my groveling. We want to, we're also interested in images that you published or you have in an exhibit coming up, an outside exhibit. And one other thing, the transportation details was the theme challenge for this month. And so I would like to get some images set for the newsletter for that subject. So transportation details.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done.
Peter,
Yeah. Just another reminder, we are meeting at the Science Museum tomorrow at 10 o'clock for a shoot, a group effort. It should be fun. There's lots of interesting details there. A couple of other suggestions. Kemp sent along what I thought was a great idea. An interesting theme would be oxymoron photographs. Photographing things that don't fit together. They're in the same place, but they don't fit together. Maybe another way to look at it is a photograph that has mixed messages, or maybe it's just plain absurd. I'd like to put that out as a challenge for like next month. So put on your thinking caps. I've got a couple that in my stock, and I'll try to get some more. And Chuck sent along a couple of things. This coming Sunday, the 18th, from 11 to 5 at the courthouse campus of the Chesterfield Technical Center, there is going to be a car and truck show. We've often gone to car shows, old car shows, but this says there's also trucks. Spectators allowed free, 11 to 5, River City Cruisers.
is that this Sunday, you said?
Sunday, coming up,
Sunday at 11 a.m. at the Technical Center. It's on
Chesterfield Technical
Courthouse Road,
Center
Courthouse
Courthouse
Road.
Campus,
in
the
Chesterfield.
10101
Courses
Courthouse
there,
Road in
Tech
Chesterfield.
Center.
And it should be fun because old cars, but seldom do we get a chance at old trucks. Thank you, Chuck, for that. And that's it for the time being.
Nancy?
Not much. We have a wonderful speaker today. We'll get to that later. October meeting is going to be kind of loosey-goosey. We're going to focus on prep for the November show. Tom's going to give us a little presentation on how to get your pictures ready. And if you have any issues getting your pictures ready, bring it to your questions there. If you're having trouble resizing your image, put it on a thumb drive, bring it, and we'll put it up on the screen and help you. There's always a way. If you want to get it to a standard size for a standard mat. If you're having trouble printing, bring those issues and we'll help try and resolve them. Again, maybe Ed can talk about matting or demo matting. We'll work on it, but our primary focus is going to be a loose meeting, getting ready for the November show.
Okay, cool. Very good.
And we're open to suggestions for November. I have nothing.
Getting towards year end, maybe we'll just have a booze party. Yeah, right,
Yeah, one thing I would like to announce is we now have 34 paid members. But I encourage you to, if you have friends and neighbors and all who want to do something photography wise, please encourage them to join us. I think it's a very educational club and fun. And so that's about all I have.
We also have a returning member, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
yeah, Margaret. Yeah, Margaret's back. Somehow she fell through the cracks. Yeah.
She rejoined.
Oh, good,
She's not with us today, though.
okay,
I know it came late. Does everybody know about Patricia
I'm sorry.
and her leg? Know about that?
Yeah, I didn't heard that.
All right.
So, say something.
I remember Patricia Mumford, bless her heart.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but why don't you come up here, because, you know, the microphone's over there.
Look, very good. All right, Patricia Mumford, who will join us later. She's in a class.
That's not coming from you. Okay.
Oh, all right, with some noise interference. Anyway, sorry about that. She was down in Bonnie or Caribbean Island, and she had was walking back from scuba diving, carrying a bag off. She fell. And she said she knew it was broken immediately, and it involved a lot of screaming. And she had to have surgery down there. She's home now, and she said she's doing very minor PT. And so
Good.
she can't put any weight on her leg right now. So, you know, you're friends with her, you shoot her an email and maybe go see her. So anyway, poor Patricia.
Okay, thanks for that. Yeah, I used to do a lot of scuba diving, and, you know, I knew it was dangerous when there were sharks around. No, that's really too bad. She's probably, she's still in a lot of pain, you know, or is she getting around?
She's not putting any weight on her.
She's on crutches. You know, all right, yeah, I'll have to do it all. A couple of things, if you know anybody, I'm doing a basic photography course at the Chesterfield Adult at the Technical Center. It actually starts this week in May. Still a few seats open. Basically, what it's designed to do is take somebody from automatic mode to measure. It's probably past all of you guys. I don't know if any of you would get anything out of it, but I'm also doing an advanced course, which starts on November 1st. And the advanced course is a little bit different because it's all about the art of photography, and it's about what you want to do. So what I do is I give everybody a list of challenges that they can choose from. And everybody chooses the things that they want to do throughout the course. And I did that for the first time last semester, and everybody really liked that idea rather than just me picking out 2, 3, or 4 things to do. That starts on the 1st, and the Lightroom course starts on November 2nd.
And can you send me the details on that in the newsletter?
Yep.
I can't write down as fast as you're going.
No problem. But you know, the basic course starts this Tuesday, so it's a little bit. But the advanced and Lightroom courses start November 1st and 2nd. And you know, Nancy was talking about. I'll try to help anybody who needs help putting their stuff together. But I'm going to be in France from October 15th to like the end of the month. So if you would like some help in getting your photos ready for the exhibit, get to me like now. And I'll be happy to help you. Tom, are you doing any classes?
I just did one last week at Louis Gatehurst.
Okay.
Right now.
Okay. All right. Tom always gets great reviews on these classes. We got anybody else doing or taking any classes? All right, anything that I've forgotten that you want to talk about? Anything else? No? Who's introducing our speaker, Bill?
I'll get started.
Okay, go ahead, Nancy.
We're very fortunate today to have Bill Draper with us to give a presentation. He's a great photographer, has published a wonderful book on the James River, and he's here to help us learn how to take better pictures of the landscape in and around Richmond. So I'll turn it over to Bill and let him take it from there. Bill, thank you again for coming. We really appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you all for having me. I feel a little, humbled by being in front of you all because, I'm learning photography. I studied photography at Western Kentucky University. I graduated in 1975. I did an internship there for the years that I was a student. I was their staff photographer, but it was black and white. I spent a lot of time in the dark room. When we did color, it was color slides, Ektachrome that we processed ourselves. And then I worked 40 years in healthcare. When I retired in 2016, I got back into photography and I said, whoa, a lot of changes. So I'm learning digital. I've got a good friend, Parks Roundtree, who's kind of like taking me under his wing and kind of helped me along. And a number of you, I follow some of the things that you all do, and I'm learning the digital side and experiment. And I guess the only thing that's keeping me going as far as if occasionally I get a good picture, I just take a lot of them. I'm out at all times of the day and night, and it's my exercise. I don't go to the gym. I did a book. If you are interested in questions about publishing a book, I can tell you what not to do. I can tell you why you should do a book, why you shouldn't do a book, how much work it is to do a book, and it's things like that. I kind of went into it. Somebody said, you ought to do a book, and I did, and it was not at all what I expected. But it turned out okay, just because of perseverance, and I learned a lot. So if you have any questions relative to that. And the book I did do was on the James River Park system, because it was something that I knew and was familiar with. And I grew up with the James River and spent a lot of time there. And I saw a void in the fact that the James River is 600 plus acres. Most people don't know the areas in the park. And I thought, it would be nice to have a book with photographs that gave the location of each place. And it's been we've sold almost 2,000 copies, and so it's been somewhat successful. We've got about 100 copies left. So we're about out of print, and the Friends of the James River Park, all the proceeds go to them. So every penny of the book goes back to the park. There are a couple of retailers, Virginia Museum, Library of Virginia, RES, the store at RES sells the book. Tweed, Jefferson Hotel, there's a number of places, the Outpost in West Oak Hill. So there's a number of places that sell the book as well, but we're just about out, and I don't know if we're going to reprint it. There's discussion about doing a second book, so we'll see how that goes. But if you have any interest in the park or where to go, it's a picture, it's a coffee table book, but it would also be maybe of interest because of locations within the park. I've seen some of you in the parks. I know you all know some of the where the places are. The one thing I want to cover today is what time of day, where to go, what time to be there, what times you don't miss, what time of year. I tend to go to extremes. I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm out before light, take a lot of naps. People say, do you ever sleep? Yes, I do. Because I find the best time to take pictures is when everybody else is not. And I don't mean that they're not taking pictures, they're just not up. I'm taking pictures when most people are sleeping. The afternoon is great, but the afternoon is not the same as the morning. People say, where do you see this wildlife early in the morning? They're out when we're sleeping. So I get a lot of wildlife pictures that I have no idea these animals were in the park, and the ecosystem we have in the park is phenomenal. So I'll share some of the pictures with you and some of the times I think you should be there. I find out I turn 71 next month, October, and I find that getting up early, getting out, it just motivates me, and it keeps me healthy, keeps me moving. So I encourage you to get out, move around. I'm tired every day.
I'm tired every day if I don't move. So it's like, you're tired either way. You get to a certain age and you're gonna be tired at the end of the day. So why not be tired doing something? And that's what I encourage you. Get up early in the morning. The bridges in this city are phenomenal. People want to know what kind of drone I have. It's the Huguenot Bridge, the Manchester Bridge, the Potterfield Bridge, the Lee Bridge. All these bridges are phenomenal opportunities, and I see a lot from the bridges, and I'll go a little bit into that. So let me see if I can. Okay, the mouse is supposed to do something here. What? Okay. Did you do that?
Just
Right click? Okay.
right click. and View and then select the next.
About Tuesday.
Turn down the lights a little bit.
Is that better? This is actually a photograph from the book that I did for the park system. And this is how I kind of started out my photography. I had an iPhone in my pocket and a $400 camera. So most of what you see in the book is with an iPhone and a $400 camera. And one day my wife came to me and said, "Honey, your pictures really aren't as sharp and crisp as Park Roundtree and some of the other people that I've seen." So I said, "Well, honey, I got a $400 camera and an iPhone." And she said, "Go out and buy a new camera." Well, I did. I bought a couple of new games. So, but things have changed quite a bit since then. So I look at the book and I'm disappointed at the pictures in the book, but I got to remember that's kind of where I started. So no matter what the publisher, Brandywine Publishing, Robert Pruitt says, "Bill, you'll never finish. If you keep waiting to get the book perfect, you're never going to finish it." See, we got to do it. So, but if you have any questions about publishing a book or anything like that, I'm happy to talk about that. All right. Next, this is not going to work. Okay, I'm going to have to go into it. You see. Can't see what I think of where that thing's going. Okay, yeah, that would be great. Sorry about that.
That's your $400
So,
camera.
so I went from a $400 camera to this. I've got a backpack on, and I've actually carried 2 cameras and a couple of different lenses, and my iPhone. And if you look at the camera on top, that's a device made by Olympus. Nikon makes one. They may have discontinued. It's just called a dot sight. So when you're looking through it, you see a little dot. And what I do is I set the camera up like on monopod, just somewhere where I've got a steady point, and I will have the camera focused or pointed at. You have to have your dot in the middle, whether it's center focus or whatever. So you're looking at it on your viewfinder, and then I adjust the windage and elevation on the dot, so it's looking at the same thing. And people, how do you get all these flying bird shots? How do you get this? Like, and I'm walking, I see a fox, and all of a sudden it's running. It's like gunning. It's like, it's like the Wild West. It's, you shoot fast. You got to have you get camera in the right setting, ready to go. So I could not do the pictures, the flying birds, things, the eagles and things like that. It's awful hard to follow a hummingbird in a viewfinder and looking at it. So it's almost impossible. So I rely heavily on that, and I highly recommend it. You have to get used to it. And it's called a dot sight. Olympus makes one. I have both the Olympus and the Nikon. Somebody told me the Nikon was discontinued, but the Olympus, and it doesn't matter what brand. It's a sight that fits on top of a camera. It goes in the hot shoe. If you've got a camera that has autofocus capable of grabbing the subject, and it depends on, if it's open sky, things like that, almost any camera will do it. Sometimes when you got a background, you have to work with adjustments on your camera and so on. I've kind of tweaking my cameras to figure out what works best. But for moving objects, I thought it works really well. Next slide. This is the James River Park. I'm going to start at Huguenot Flatwater, and then I'm going to go to the Pony Pasture. I want to go over some places that I find are my favorite places that are easy to get to. There are a lot of places in the park that are very hard to get to, and people say, hey, where were you standing when you got that picture? I was standing in waist deep water at a certain place in the park. I don't necessarily recommend or expect everybody to do that. But there are so many cool places to go that are so easy to get to. You just have to know when and how the best times to be there. So the next slide. So this is Huguenot Bridge. It's not the Huguenot Bridge I grew up with because I grew up in that area, Stratford Hills. But this is the new Huguenot Bridge. There is a new, really nice launch area right there now for launch kayaks, boats, canoes, that type of thing. But this is kind of, and they've also got a kind of a nature trail, bike trail, whatever, along the river there now. And it's been cleaned up. It's really a nice place to go, just to walk along the river. It's a nice place for birding and things like that. So that's a place where I would recommend just going there sometime. And you've got a nice parking area as well. And you can walk down to the Z Dam. I call it Williams Dam, where Williams Island is, where I grew up. And when I grew up, they didn't have the fishing notch in it. So I used to walk across it and all around it, but we can't do that anymore. So, and again, Huguenot Bridge is one of my go-to spots for wildlife. Who would have thought that? On the park on the River Road Shopping Center side generally, and walk up on the bridge. And on the right-hand side, there's a field. And in the mornings and the evening, there's deer, wild turkeys, flocks of turkeys, things like that. And when you telephoto land, it's a pretty, and it's a pretty cool place. You're upstairs, you got a nice view of them. And people say, where'd you get that deer? Where'd you get those wild turkeys? From Huguenot Bridge. So you wouldn't have thought to go there. So I highly recommend it. And it's a great place for sunrises, downstream, sunsets, upstream, moon rising, depending on the, where the moon is rising. Sometimes that is a great spot. So Huguenot Bridge is another great spot for sunrises, sunsets, and wildlife. So again, I recommend the bridge.
On the bridge?
Yes, there are walkways on both sides of the bridge. I tend to sometimes go either side of the bridge. During rush hour, it's not a good thing to do. But a lot of times there's not much traffic and you can see that it's a clear spot and you go across the other side. But when the sun's setting, I usually stay on the upstream side. When the sun's rising, I stay on the other side. And sometimes depending on the skies and whatever, I'll switch sides of the bridge. But it's a very easy place to go. You got a place to park, you walk a little bit and you're there. Next slide. Okay, I'm going to go through these pretty quickly. This is the rapids at the Pony Pasture. Many of you have probably been there and know it well. There's a place to park. But I highly recommend going early in the morning, going late in the evening. And if you've got beautiful blue sky with white fluffy clouds, that can be exciting too. And you all know this.
Bill, did you say that's right by the parking area when you go into the?
This is just upstream from the parking area. You park and you walk up a little path and you see the rapids. So this is a picture of the rapids in the wintertime. Next slide. This is the same picture. It's a different environment, different day, different level of the river. Next slide. Same picture. So you see, when the river goes up, the river goes down, the lighting, everything's different. Next picture. Same picture. Next picture. Same picture. I panned a little bit to the left. I haven't moved. I'm in the same spot. So I've already been to the Pony Pasture taking pictures. You haven't. Every day is different. The lighting's different. Next picture. Same picture. You get down in the water. I got to tell you a story about this. I'm down there taking pictures, and these two ladies stand on the bank watching me. And I walk back to the bank, and the lady says, "Sir, may I ask you a question? Why'd you stick your camera in the water?" I didn't stick the camera in the water, but I had it right at the water. So that's the thing. If you get these, you can just sometimes just be creative and try different things, and you get some pretty neat effects. Next picture. Same picture. This is when the sun is setting. Now, usually at the Pony Pasture, the sun is kind of setting to the left. Obviously, it varies with the time of year. And it's not always downstream, but it's still you get some of the the lighting, depending on the clouds and things like that, from sunrises and sunsets. So it's a good sunrise sunset spot. Next picture. Same picture, doesn't look at all the same. The river's higher. It's somewhat cloudy, but right at sunset, you get that red glow in the sky sometimes. So, you know, didn't look like a good day to go take a picture, but I never assume that it's not a good day to take a picture. So it's, you just be out there, and it's always, you know, I'm always surprised in myself. It's like, wow, didn't expect this. Next picture. Same spot. Now I was out in the water a little bit. The water's low. I walked out on the rocks. This is the sun coming up in the morning. So it's a great spot. So, you know, again, one of my favorite places to go, and it's, you wouldn't know I'm in the same place. Next picture. If you like to take pictures of flowers, Pony Pasture is one of the greatest places for Virginia bluebells in the springtime when they start coming up. They're everywhere, and you can actually get pictures of them against the sunrises and sunsets sometimes, and there's a lot of them. So it's, again, it's just a neat place to go. Next picture. This is my favorite place in all of Richmond to take pictures. I love this bridge. I had on the cover of the book, I have that bridge. It's also one of the hardest places in Richmond to get to. And I have to be careful saying it. There's no easy way to get there unless you kayak down the river or come in a canoe or something, because there's a railroad on both sides. And to get to the river, you've got to cross over those railroad tracks, which is private property technically. So it's really kind of it's not the greatest place to go to, but there are ways that you can get there. I was kayaking a couple weeks ago, and I stopped there and took pictures. But this is, you know, you can get some really neat pictures there. But I want to show you this. This is where I mentioned to you earlier. Somebody asked me, where were you standing when you took this picture? I was in way too deep water out in the river. I don't carry my expensive cameras out in the river like that. That picture was taken with my iPhone. Now that's an iPhone 14 Pro Max. The only reason I use the Max is they got a bigger screen because I do a lot of my post editing on my phone, which is a little different than a lot of people do. So this is sun was setting. I wanted to get the sun coming down, and a train coming just happened that it came all together. And Amtrak actually wants to buy this picture from me. So
What bridge is that?
this is the Atlantic Coastline Bridge, CSX Atlantic Coastline Bridge. Next picture.
Can I ask you before you go? There's also a canal, isn't there a canal that you have to get across before you get to the track?
Well,
On the other side.
there's two ways to get there. Two easier ways to get there. On the south side of the river, where the bridge comes into Riverside Drive, there's a concrete like wash drainage area. You can walk down there, cross over the tracks, and you're pretty much at the bridge. The problem is there's no place to park. So I park a half a mile, 3/4 of a mile away, and jog or walk or whatever to that location. And then again, you got to be careful because you've got gravel on the railroad tracks. It's slippery. It's dangerous. I mean, you have to be very careful. But this is a reason I show you this picture is not to say, all right, this is a cool place. Don't go there because it's too dangerous. You can go where this picture was taken, you can go. This was on the Boulevard Bridge. This is the Nickel Bridge. This is the bridge crossing there. The only thing I caution there is there's bicycles going back and forth all the time, and a lot of and it's a fairly narrow walkway. So if you're using a tripod or whatever, just be aware that there are other people coming through, so you don't have the bridge to yourself. Also be aware that the bridge shakes a lot. So when the cars are coming by and you're doing a lot of shaking, just wait for wait if you can. Now I couldn't wait for the train. The train was going to go no matter what. You take the pictures, you do the best you can. If you can handhold it, fine. I find that even using a tripod helps on the bridge, but that's a place you can go. And that's also a great sunset spot. There are places in the river where you're looking down the river and the sun's setting over here. Right now on the Lee Bridge, the sun's setting over on the Hollywood Cemetery side. It varies on times of year, but this time of year, if you're standing on the Boulevard Bridge, the sun's setting right up the river. This is a great time to go to that bridge to take sunset pictures. And you can park at the, you go in Pump House Drive, like you go into the pump house, and there's a parking lot right to the left. It goes to the North Bank Trail. And you can park right there. It's a great place to park, and you walk right around and walk right out on the bridge. You don't have to go far at all.
Where's that,
I'm sorry?
where's that parking lot again?
The parking lot, when you pay the toll, when you go across the Boulevard Bridge, it's right behind that toll area. You go into Pump House Drive and you go past where you see the toll and stuff in the parking lot. There's actually a parking lot where the toll are for the employees there, but you just go a little bit further and you see a parking lot to the left. And that parking lot is for bikers, hikers, people that want to access the James River Park. You walk down that trail, and there's a fence. You walk along Maymont, where the fence is. You'll be on the outside of Maymont. You'll have the canal on one side, and then the fence on the other side. So you've got so you walk down between the canal and the fence if you were going down river. But in this case, you're going actually. You don't. Let me see. Got myself confused here. In this case, you just go. In this case, if you were going to go to say that bridge, you would go to up to where the pump house is. You can either walk up to the pump house or you can park beside the pump house.
Yeah.
If you want to take a picture of this bridge from the Boulevard Bridge, you would go park at the closest parking lot to the toll plaza and then walk out on the bridge. If you want to go to the bridge, then that's where you go to the pump house. You go along the canal, and there's a little place that goes across the canal, and then you can kind of walk over the railroad tracks and over to the bridge. But again, it's a little tedious and tough to get there. So highly recommend, and trains come by quite often during the evening, but I do recommend the tripod. This was taken at a pretty slow shutter speed. It's a little pixelated, but it's still, I think it came out okay for a cloudy day, low light. So use a tripod. Another thing, I want to show you some other pictures later on that a wildlife photographer told me that the most important thing he had in his bag, the most important thing he carried with him taking wildlife pictures was his tripod. And it was kind of surprised me. And not only a tripod, but the heavier carbonates, the ones that don't vibrate, they don't shake. And I actually spent some money on one of those. And if you're interested, I found a great deal on one of those. You don't have to spend $1,000, $1,500 like a lot of them, but you can get the comparable one for quite a bit less. And I've noticed a big difference, and I'll show you some of that. So next picture. Hollywood Cemetery. For those of you all that haven't been to Hollywood Cemetery, please do. It is a wonderful place to take pictures. This is the North Bank Trail. This is a view of the city. This is the railroad tracks along the river, the canal. This is at the backside of Hollywood Cemetery. You just drive around there. You can park there. You don't have to go anywhere. So it's a great place to take pictures if you hadn't been there. Next shot. Okay, now we've kind of moved up the river. Some of you are familiar with the Reedy Creek area, Belle Isle, the pipeline, Great Shiplock Park, and Carroll's Landing. But I'm going to really concentrate on next slide. Concentrate on Belle Isle right now. This is the rapids of Belle Isle, and probably many of you have gone to Belle Isle. But again, Belle Isle is in my front yard right now. My grandkids say I live on the overlook at Oregon Hill. My wife and I sold our house in Short Pump 3 years ago. They had 5 new buildings. They built townhouses at the overlook, and my wife and I bought one of them. So we live down there now. Had no idea what we were getting into. So, oh my God, we be unhappy that we made this decision. Well, we've been there 3 years and love it. I feel like I've got the park. I feel like I live in a park. I live in a resort area. I just really like it. So I can be over this part of the park in just a few minutes from my house. So this is one picture. The next. Same shot, just I walk out there at night and you can get some really neat spots. This was in the snow. Next picture. This is Hollywood Rapids. So at sunset, that's really kind of a neat place to go. Just walk out across the pedestrian bridge below Lee Bridge. You come right out on Belle Isle, and you can get out on the rocks. There's actually wheelchair access out to the rocks. Pretty interesting. And you can get some kind of interesting pictures like that. Next shot. Same rapids, sun setting, somebody sitting over there on the rock beside. So, you've got an opportunity. This is, again, sometimes I get down low. People think, oh, this guy passed out on the rocks over there. No, I'm lying down taking a picture. But sometimes that's what you got to get that angle. Next shot. This is actually the pipeline that goes across the river to Belle Isle. I guess they used to have, where they had water and stuff that was going over there. So it's an old, pipe. So it kind of looks like a dam, but it's sunset, but you get kind of neat lines in the water and stuff like that. You've got that, I call it the golden hour where you've got the sun setting. Next slide. You know those rapids we were looking at? Here they are. This is this time of year when the river is really low. And there weren't any clouds in the sky. I said, well, there's no cloud. The sunset's not going to be much. I went over there with my grandson, and this was with my iPhone. Didn't even carry my camera. I took my iPhone, and I saw this golden like little pond in the rocks where the water was still. And so you can get some pretty neat stuff out there. Just get out there at that time when the sun's going down, that low light, the golden down. Next slide. This is out on the rocks at Belle Isle as well. My wife is right here. This is my daughter, and this is my grandson. So it's a great place to take a family out, and with the sun setting on a summer night, it's just really cool.
So Bill, and you said that's Bill, are you walking across the pedestrian?
Yeah,
bridge?
all of this is across the pedestrian bridge, and this is on the northern side, the north side of Belle Isle. There is a south side of Belle Isle is a circle. There's a path going around it. This is the side that you're looking at Hollywood Cemetery across the river. Next slide. This is also Belle Isle, and this is someplace that many of you probably already gone. It's at the far downstream tip of Belle Isle. Be careful if you go there, it's muddy. Parks and I were taking pictures, Parks Roundtree and I, for those of you who know Parks, went with me and Michelle Garrigan and my wife and walked down to, we wanted to get pictures of the city, Christmas lights, and get the reflection in the water. It's a perfect spot. So I had this little log I was sitting on next to the water, and Park said, Bill, let me help you up. Well, he pulled on me. Next thing you know, his foot slipped, his foot hit me, and I went right down in the mud. They're still laughing about it, but it's a great place to take pictures. So next picture. Same location. I went out there one evening when it was snowing. I can't remember this. No, this was actually early morning, excuse me. This was early in the morning. You get the same type of, same location, same picture, but look at the difference. Something absolutely, totally different. Next picture. Same location. Go to a different time when the flowers are blooming. That's obviously in the springtime, early summer. Next picture. Same picture. So what I'm trying to tell you is because you've been there before, don't think you've been there. You haven't been there. And if you can possibly, go out there in the evenings, go out there early in the morning. And ladies, if you go out there early in the morning, I recommend you going with somebody. I haven't run into any problems, but there are things. This is, this is more of a remote area, so I would, be careful. But I've never run into any problems, but I wouldn't want my daughters and my wife down there early in the morning or late evening themselves. Okay, next one. This is that, again, this clear sky, sun setting, you get that golden glow on this was the Photoshop. This is what it looked like. It was, it looks like the city of gold. Richmond, who would have thought Richmond is a city of gold? But again, go to the same places, you get different things. Next slide. When it's foggy, do we want to go out and take pictures? Yes, especially when we know the fog's going to clear. This is on the Lee Bridge. This is one of my easiest places for me to get to where I live, but it's also, I think it's one of the best places in Richmond to take pictures. Many of you I know have been out there, but again, in the morning, you get the sunrises, in the evenings, you get the sunsets, and you get the cloud formations. You can see storms coming in, you can see skies clearing, every day is different. The pictures you see on the news of the city, it's taken from that bridge, but they all look different. The sunrises and sunsets are different. This is where the sun's coming up. It's actually been up for a while, and the actual fog is moving out. Next shot. This is taken from Potterfield Bridge. It's another great spot. I know many of you all have been to Potterfield Bridge as well. This is a foggy morning, and you get some cool stuff in the fog. It's almost like a black and white. In this case, it is black and white. But next slide. Same shot, got a couple of like Canada geese flying by. So again, just, don't assume because it's foggy, it's not a good day to go out, or not a good time to go out. Next slide. Potterfield Bridge, I mentioned that. That's a great place to go. Easy to get to, right at Brown's Island. Every time of the year is a little different. Springtime, when the shad and the herring are coming up, spawning, is the best time for the pipeline, for the which is on that side of the river, the north side, the flood wall on the south side. It's a little quiet this time of year, and I recommend Tuckahoe Creek Park right now, and I'll show you why in a few minutes. But it's a great place to take pictures of the city, waterfowl, and things like that. Next slide. Again, Potterfield Bridge. Next slide. Potterfield Bridge, a little different look. Next slide. Okay, wildlife in the park. This is where you got to get up early because you just don't see the same things. Next slide. I've had people as far as North Dakota, Canada. Somehow this thing got shared and wanted to know about this deer. This world-class buck. This deer lives in the James River Park and frequent cemeteries and stuff in this part of it, and it's been a very protected area. I almost hesitate showing it because it's people have been known to poach and under any kind of situation. This is literally a world-class deer that made it on his own. And I've got a picture of him 2 years ago. I got a picture of him last year. He broke one of his main beams off last year, but he was very healthy. So I'm hoping he made it another year. But this deer is a mature deer, so he's probably getting close to the golden years of his life. So I don't know how much longer he'll be there, but this is quite unusual sight to see in the park. Next picture. Okay, this was taken on the right North Bank Trail there, Hollywood Cemetery, and it was almost dark. And this is where this wildlife photographer said, carry a tripod with you. So I had my 600mm lens, f6.3, 600mm lens, f6.3, dark. You can't get too many pictures handheld. I mean, it just doesn't happen. That was 1/25 of a second at f6.3 on a good solid tripod. So, so that's where now I'm carrying more weight again, but it's working out at the gym for me. It's just, instead of going to the gym, I can work out with my camera stuff. So I kind of embrace weight. It's just, I've got a bad back, but the more I carry, the stronger it gets. So, I recommend sometimes carrying a tripod or having a tripod because we get these low light situations for wildlife. Huguenot bird is perfect. Tripod, shooting down at almost dark. That's when the deer come out. Big bucks come out there. Turkeys come out there. So expect to have low light, use a low shutter speed. Huguenot Bridge, like all bridges, shakes a little bit. So, you just have to work with it. Next picture. Early in the morning is when I see foxes. I see them mostly around the North Bank Trail, the edges of Hollywood Cemetery, edges of the next cemetery is Riverview Cemetery. So it kind of where I see them is in the open spots or along the edges and stuff like that. So just kind of be aware. But you got to be quick. You see them and bam, you got to have your camera ready, put the dot on and take the picture. Next slide. Again, this is the same. They're different fox. This is right at the edge of Hollywood Cemetery. So again, low light situation. It's not that it's a little brandy, maybe a little pixelated, but I got this shot. Next shot. These are the two owls that used to be like clockwork. You could count on them all the time at near the wetlands at the Pony Pasture. They've since found, too many people found them and they had to find another spot. But this, there are barred owls, and it's a great around the Pony Pasture, the wetlands is a great place just to find them. They are hard to find. And I took my wife to look at those one day. She said, "Oh, I'd love to see some owls." So I took her there, and we were standing 15 yards away from the owls, right there. I said, "There they are." "Where?" "Right there." "Where?" Finally, she saw them. Well, they are hard to see. So, I usually find owls by hawks, crows, blackbirds, you see all these birds flying around and making a big squawk, harassing something. It looks like they're harassing or chasing something. It's usually an owl or a hawk or something like that. So I find them, a lot of times I find them that way. Next slide. It's a great horned owl, and this was along the north bank. I just happened to see him one evening as the sun was setting. So you know, they are along the river. Next slide. I love kestrels. They're sparrowhawks, and most people have never seen one, or they think they have never seen one, but they probably have and just saw a bird flying and didn't know what it was. They're pretty shy birds. They're not real. You don't see a lot of them. You know, you just don't see them. This past year, and I highly recommend it because it almost works like clockwork. In the spring, along the railroad tracks at the flood wall, there's one or two kestrels just kind of take over that area, and when they get the bugs and the mice along the railroad yard there, right in front of Legends Brewery, Legends Restaurant. But I don't know how many people, we started, Parks Roundtree and I started posting pictures.
Air is ready to be paired.
Of this kestrel, and the next thing you know, it was like paparazzi.
Connected.
But he was so used to people walking up and down and bikes walking up and down.
Low battery.
He just hung around, and Parks and I were taking pictures of this kestrel or another kestrel for 2.5 hours when they said, my fingers getting tired of taking pictures. We got so many, it just doesn't get any better than this. So again, if you cannot get an opportunity to go there in the spring, but you know, kind of when they're getting ready for nesting, it's a great place to see kestrels. Next shot. Eagles. Eagles are kind of iffy, hard to find sometime on the river except downstream. This eagle was right on the Slave Trail before you get to Ann Carroll's Landing. I caught it one morning setting up, and that's where I see a lot of eagles. If you haven't been with Mike Ostrander, Discover the James, he goes out of Deep Bottom Park, or the other place is Richmond Yacht Basin. Brian, it's down below Osborne Boat Landing. He is phenomenal. He's so knowledgeable about the eagles, and there's about 9 or plus nesting pairs, plus a bunch of migratory eagles coming through all the time. This year was a kind of a banner year for eagles. We had an eagle nest right downtown across from the pipeline on the high power electric line, and we had 3 eaglets that fledged. Last year it was 1. So we do have eagles around. You just kind of have to look for them. And some days I've taken pictures quite often along Potterfield Bridge. And one day, 6 or so buzzards were fighting with an eagle over a dead carp. The eagle finally won. It was kind of neat because the buzzard would take it, the eagle would take it. The buzzard would take it. So I was getting pictures of the eagle dragging this carp across the river and stuff like that, right at Potterfield Bridge. So you never know when you're going to see them. And people say, I've never seen an eagle. Well, one just flew by and they probably didn't even see it. Bird Park is another great place for eagles. Shields Lake, a bird park. You've got Swan Lake.
Air is ready to be paired.
I've seen eagles swoop down at Shields Lake and grab a dead fish or grab a live fish, generally in the afternoon, sometimes early in the morning. And I
Low battery.
lived there her whole life, and she said, I've lived here my whole life and I've never seen an eagle. There you go.
That was at Bird Park, you said?
Yeah, Bird Park, right at Shields Lake. So, you know, early in the morning, sometimes that it's not, you can't guarantee it, but you just, you know, you never know. So, you know, that's another spot. Next picture. This is a picture I took with Mike Ostrander out on the James, and this picture has a lot of, have a lot of, I'm looking for the word to use, but this picture means a lot to me. And the reason why is because this bird is 17 years old. And the reason I know that it was 17 years old, and actually I was out with Mike this year, and he said, today is Bandit's birthday. It's called this Bandit. And he named it Bandit, has a band on its leg.
It's ready to be paired.
Over a 3-year period, he was able to have it with photographers. Over a 3-year period, they were able to get all the numbers on the band. And
Low battery.
The National Foundation, I think it's a foundation or association, and we're able to find out about Bandit. She was originally called Dolly because Pigeon Forge is where the Eagle Foundation is. And she was released there into the wild at approximately 3 months of age. And she was born in the Birmingham Zoo and transferred to Pigeon Forge and released into the wild. And she ended up in Richmond, Virginia, right downstream, and she's been there for 17 years, or most of the 17 years. I don't know how long it took her to get here. And she's had numerous, she had numerous successful nestings and 3 mates. Eagles mate for life, and she's on her 3rd. So I don't know what this means, but it's kind of interesting. Mike knows a lot about this. And it's hard to get an eagle coming at you. They're usually going to the side or something like this. It's a rare situation where you get an eagle that's got a fish and it's coming right at you. So, and this picture was actually on the cover of the inside cover of the recent Virginia Wildlife photo, annual photo wildlife magazine. Next shot. It's a juvenile eagle. This is what eagles look like before they mature. They're just either black or black. It's kind of the splotchy look, and over period of 4.5, 5 years, that's when they get the white tail and the white head. And so eagles not actually mature until they're about 5.5 years old. That's when they mate. So the white head will become speckly and then it'll eventually become white. And this obviously is neither at this point. Next picture. Okay, this is an interesting. This was taken at Mayo Bridge. So many of you know where that is. Early in the morning, when the sun is to your back, and when the shad and the herring come up the river, there's a lot of fish in the river right there. And sometimes you get 8, 10, 12, 15 osprey out diving. And then occasionally eagle come by and try to steal the fish from the ospreys. And eagles are much better at stealing fish than they are catching them themselves. Ospreys are very good at catching them. So this is a bird coming down to get a fish. This is the next shot. This is the same bird coming out of the water, dot sight. I couldn't do this without the dot sight, so I'm keeping on that bird. This is it coming out of the water, and the next shot. This is so this doesn't happen. It usually happens. This is the 3rd time I've seen this happen, and it generally they drop one of them. This one didn't. He kept both fish and flew off with both fish. So this is when they're so thick in there, it's makes it easier. But still, this is kind of a unique picture. But right here, close to home, you don't have to go far. And there's actually a parking area right there next to this new complex that they have there, condominiums or whatever. That's part of the park. Next picture. And these are some herons. Also, this was also in the Virginia Wildlife magazine. They used 2 of my pictures. And interestingly enough, I got a call from Virginia Wildlife, and he said, "Bill, we just wanted you to know how impressed we are with your deer picture, but we're not going to use it." And I said, "Why?" It's just, we respect the deer too much. See, this deer is a world-class deer, and this deer did it on its own. There are places in Texas that raise deer in high fence areas. They basically watch the deer, nurture the deer. They put high protein. They put everything in that deer, give it to eat, to grow large antlers and to mature, so they can have hunters come in and pay $30,000 to $50,000 to shoot them. That's why we're not going to post this deer on our magazine. We for the safety of the deer. We don't want people out looking for it. So it's pretty amazing that we have this in the city of Richmond. Next picture. Have you all seen a great blue heron eat a fish? The next group of pictures, it's actually isn't the same heron, but it's the same type, it's the same size fish. And the pictures that I took that I'm showing you next were with my $400 camera. So they're not quite as good. And I need to get some better ones. But they spear the fish. And sometimes a huge fish. Next slide. They open up their jaws. They flip the fish around so it always goes down head first. How they do all that stuff with just grabbing and flipping. But you watch them, it's really fascinating. Next picture. Next picture. I think that may be so. They get that thing. They swallow those fish, and it's just like, really? How did that happen? So it's pretty amazing, and I don't have pictures of it, but I've seen eagles grab, they get a small fish and they eat it in midair. They bend down and eat the fish and swallow it before they don't land and eat it. So I should have put some pictures of that in there, but that's the kind of things you can see with eagles, and you don't know it really unless you're taking pictures, because a lot of times things happen, you really can't you're taking it at a distance, you're taking, but you don't really know what you've got until you get back and say, wow, that's pretty cool. So next shot. This is my favorite, one of my favorite waterfowl to shoot is male wood duck. They're so beautiful. The James River along just a river of in the city it's the real iffy trying to find it. Most of the time when I do see them, it's where the park headquarters at Reedy Creek. There's some kind of little creeks and little eddies and places where the water is just not it's shallower. You might have a little vegetation growing along the edges and stuff. That in the mornings early, I see them. They're very shy type birds, and you see them at Tuckahoe Creek, but most of the time they're flying. Right now, we've got some young ones kind of hanging around there, and I'll show you that later. This particular picture, Parks Roundtree and I actually were together when we took this picture, and we had seen these wood ducks hanging around this particular area of the river. So we got there before light, laying on the bank on a piece of plastic with a camouflage netting over us. With our cameras like that, with our neck up like that, waiting for the ducks to fly. Because if you walk near them, they're gone. I mean, they're gone before you even can hardly see them. Because so they're that way. So this duck was probably as far away from me as you all in the front row. So that, you know, it's very unusual, but we had to work hard to get that picture. The next shot. Tuckahoe Creek Park. How many of you have been there? Okay, you know, it's the coolest little ecosystem in Richmond. It's not very big. I recommend going to the old Coach Road side where the newer part is, because it's a little easier to park there, but there's picnic tables and stuff on the Ridgefield Parkway side. But that's kind of the place I go this time of year when nothing's happening anywhere else. And it's easy to get to, easy to park, and it's just a very comfortable place. There are seats and stuff there. The next slide. So here it is. You've got the dock that goes along the kind of the marshy, swampy part of Tuckahoe Creek. And it's a couple hundred yards maybe. So it's not a big place. Next picture. Early in the morning. This has been recently when we had a morning that was kind of foggy, but kind of cool, and the sun was coming up, and I don't know if you've seen these kind of rainbows inside clouds sometimes, it's ice crystals or whatever, but it was kind of like it was almost like a sunrise rainbow off to the side. So you know, again, it's a great place for sunrises and sunsets. Next shot. This is the other side of Tuckahoe Creek, where you've got you know, looking the other direction. So again, early in the morning, fog. Don't keep that away. Don't keep away because of the fog. It moves out and gets kind of interesting pictures in the fog. Next, this tree is where more birds have been taken. Pictures have been taken of birds more than any other tree in the city of Richmond. This is the place where the eagles land, the ospreys land. I mean, every bird that comes through their land. I've had pictures of merganser ducks landed in trees. I didn't know they landed in trees, but I got a picture of a merganser. So just about everything that comes by likes that tree for some reason, and so it's right there, right next to the dock. And you see photographers out there in the morning sometimes with tripods or without, you know, just whatever, standing waiting for something to land in the tree. But a great place to go. Next picture. How many of you have seen a mink before? I had not seen one. Matter of fact, when I was taking this picture, I didn't know what I was taking a picture of until I got back. I said, this isn't an otter. I thought it was an otter. And I looked at it. I said, so early one morning at Tuckahoe Creek, early, you got to get up. I was there before light. I was all set up, and I saw these small beavers all getting real excited, like there was someone was chasing them. You didn't really know what was happening. And then I saw this thing show up and chase them off. And I got a couple dozen pictures of it. This was the best one. And to my knowledge, nobody has seen that mink again. But I was there early in the morning, and that's when you see this stuff. And I've got some other pictures I'll show you too. Next picture. Okay, this is right below that same tree. It's better in the times of year when the vegetation is a little down, because they're harder to see them when they get up in the vegetation. So, but there's a beaver that seems kind of sitting on his tail. So it's if you want to get a picture of a beaver early in the morning, late in the evening too, but early in the morning is best. Next shot. River otter. I see most of them in the wintertime when it's really cold, sometimes icy. I was going along the dock early one morning, and I saw something pop up through the ice. Thin ice, but something pop up through the ice. And this thing came up with a fish and was eating it like a hamburger, you know, it's like just, he's eating fish. And the next thing I looked behind me and there was this girl, this jogger, and she said, I didn't want to run by, I didn't want to scare it away. So I started to say, don't hold up just a minute, because I want to get a little closer, because I wasn't that close to it. And but that too late, she was already gone, and she got within 10 feet of it before it went back into the water. But I would have loved to have gotten a closer shot at it. And so this is a little bit far off. It's not quite as sharp as I would like. It's a little more pixelated, but there are otters there, and you see them all the time. You generally don't. You see their heads pop up, and that's it. Or you see the beavers' heads pop up. So you see them all. This is a common sight, but to get them out of the water, that's where it's hard. But it does happen if you persevere. Next shot. And the muskrats, they're pretty prevalent there too. So I don't know if you're a muskrat fan, but whatever, they're there. Next shot. This time of year, there's a lot of egrets there, or there's a few egrets that hang around, and you get some pretty neat shots. Remember that tree I was talking about? That's the tree. Next shot. This is a cool thing when you can get a egret flying by with its kind of backlit. You can see the bone structure of their wings are almost clear, so it's kind of I think kind of a fascinating picture to see the wing structure of the bird. And very graceful as well. Next shot. A lot of green herons at Tuckahoe Creek. So you know, if you want to get a picture of a green heron, that's the place to go. Next shot. Male wood ducks. This is what I usually see at Tuckahoe Creek. Wood ducks flying by. They're occasionally they'll fly, but they'll onto the end of the area, but it's on the far side, so you're not really close to them. Next shot.
Yeah. Tuckahoe Creek, it's that far. I mean, it's not very big, like you said. It's
Ma-
like one pathway that big.
Yeah, you can come in from either side, Old Coach or Ridgefield Parkway.
But it will connect, I mean.
Yeah, I recommend parking, going a little further and parking on Old Coach, because there's Enrico County land there, so you're not really parking somebody's yard, front yard, whatever. But either way is fine. A female wood duck, and I can't take these pictures again without my dot sight. I just can't. I try to do it. It's just almost impossible to try to follow them in your viewfinder. Next shot. Okay, you know that tree I told you about? There's a log beside it, and there it is. So it's kind of neat to see, you know, kindness and sharing in the wildlife area realm. This young female wood duck came out on the log, and the young ducks have been coming out and sitting on that log every morning. It's like clockwork. The ducks are going to come out and sit on the log. And she came over there and she just kind of walked around a little bit and sat down there right beside the turtle, and they were just perfectly happy and stayed there for quite a while. So, you know, you see kind of neat things. So, you know, when you're looking. Next shot. Anybody know what this is? Looks like some kind of insignia or something for the military, but it's actually a blue-winged teal at Tuckahoe Creek flying away from me. And I thought that was really kind of a cool picture, because you can see a little bit of the blue in the inside of the wings, but also got some green. But it's not an angle you see a lot of duck pictures. So, you know, when they're flying away, sometimes you get some interesting things too. And another thing that happened, I can't show you every picture of everything I've done there, but where I had a great blue heron was being harassed by a red-winged blackbird, and the red-winged blackbird landed on the top of the heron, and the heron flew across along the edges with the blackbird on his back the whole time, pecking at him. So, and I've got a whole series where it landed on it and followed through. But that again is the type of thing that you can see there. Next shot. Pileated woodpecker. Guess where he was flying? Towards that tree. So he was flying to the tree, and he was kind of, you can see he was looking up, he was getting ready to land in that tree. So, okay, next shot. Resonatory Warbler, I think I said that right. I'd never even heard of one before, and much less seen one. And they kind of migratory, they come in, but there's a lot of them you'll see there in the earlier part of the summer. Absolutely beautiful bird, just really cool bird. A lot of songbirds and excuse me. There's a lot of songbirds and stuff, you know, when they migrate through there along the edges of the waterway. So if you're a birder, it's a great place at certain times of the year. Next slide. This is a female belted kingfisher. You know, it's a female because she has the kind of the crest, that kind of orangish along her breast. And the males don't have that. It's one of the, you know, most of the time the males have more plumage. In this case, the female, I would say, had more. It looks like she's having a bad hair day. Actually, the wind was blowing, so it was blowing her feathers around. That's why she looks that way. But that picture was taken this week, by the way. So I took this picture or end of last week. So within the last week. Next shot. So I'll open it up for questions. I mentioned the James River Park because I work closely with them. I'm on the board of directors with the Friends of the James River Park. So I work very closely with them on a lot of different projects right now. The book sales that we do, the books that we do have left, again, all the proceeds go. So if there's any interest at all in the book for a friend, or just so you'll have locations and stuff, you can order them through the Friends of the James River Park or any of the retailers that I had mentioned at jamesriverpark.org. And if you do look at the website, it's under donations because the book is considered a donation. No questions?
What's in your gear bag? I saw that Jagudo lens and you had another, you know, what other cameras do you bring with your haul with you?
Okay.
Depending on what shoot you're doing.
I'm kind of overdoing it right now because I can, and I've just gotten used to it. I'm getting ready to go to Ireland for a couple of weeks. I'm gonna do the Ireland Dublin Marathon while I'm there. So I want to be able, my wife and I are going to do a lot of hiking on the western side, and I want to have everything with me. So I'm kind of like conditioning myself to carry 25 pounds. So I don't always do that, but I carry 2 full-size Sony mirrorless cameras. I carry a 16 to 35 millimeter lens. I carry 3 lenses, 16 to 35, 24 to 240, and 200 to 600. So basically I've got from 16 millimeter to 600 millimeter with my iPhone that'll go down to 13 millimeter. And by the way, some of those fog shots you saw, those are with the iPhone. The ones with the sun coming up, they weren't too bad. So the newer iPhones are really do better. If you got an iPhone 6, they're not going to take pictures very well. But the last year, the 13s were great. I ordered a 14 Monday. There's 48 megapixels on an iPhone. It's kind of crazy, but they're getting better and better. But they're limited in what they can do. They also take, when I'm kayaking and things like that, I take the phone. They can get wet and you don't run them. The other cameras are not quite as they don't work well in the water, I'll put it that way.
Are they making them better for the glare and, you know, in bright sunshine because you don't have a viewfinder?
Yeah, a phone camera is just like any other camera. If you just pick it up and push the button, you're not necessarily going to get the best shot. There's adjustments you can make with your finger on the camera. You can actually change the shutter speed, you can change the ISO, you can change what would be the f-stop. There's different, and there's proprietary stuff, but there's also apps and stuff you can get. Basically, you can set it just like your regular camera. But a lot of it's just getting to know your phone and just not just pushing the button and a picture comes up. If you're shooting into the sunset, it's going to be way over. It's going to be glare. It's going to be way over processed. So you have to touch where the sun is or where the high spot is. You can move your finger up and down the iPhone, adjust the light. They're really pretty neat cameras. And I get a new iPhone whenever they come out. You care less about the phone. If it were just a phone, I'd still be using a flip phone because it's a phone, but it's the camera, and I can carry this in water. I can carry it in. The day I was in up to my waist in water, that picture on the bridge, I took that picture with the iPhone. And you probably didn't look at the picture and say, "Oh, he took that with his phone." It came out okay. And I've got pictures. I mentioned to somebody, I've got pictures that I printed for people. I said, "Oh, I'd like a canvas print of that." And they went like 24 by 36. That's kind of a big picture for an iPhone picture, but it turned out okay. So you have to do sometimes post-processing. There's a program called Gigapixel. You can kind of like, it works. It'll take it up so you can do a larger, you can't turn garbage into, you can't take garbage and turn it into something beautiful, but if it's something that you just needs a little tweaking to up it a little bit, so you know you don't have too pixelated a picture, It does okay.
What software do you use for your post processing?
I do not even, other than the denoise or something like that, those programs, I do it here, which is not the normal thing. Other friends said, no, you need to start shooting it raw. Just start doing it. I just haven't done it. I probably should, but I shoot in, the highest quality of JPEG that I can do. And I load my stuff on here with an SD card. If I have to use the compact flash card, I can load it in my computer, and it all automatically goes to the cloud, which is on my phone too. But I do most of my processing on here with Lightroom or the Photos program that came with the phone. So what you see up there is all the editing that I've done. 99% of it is on here with Lightroom and the Photos program. And I could probably should look at some better ways to do it. I just haven't done it yet. And because it can probably be better. I need to take the Lightroom class. I need to take the Photoshop class. I need to, there's things that I'm not doing that I could do that would make the pictures better. So that's where I'm not a technical photographer. Dave?
We shoot in JPEG most of the time.
Yes, 100% of the time right now. But occasionally I'll have a picture. It's like a lot of darks and a lot of lights, and I'm trying to pull it all together, and it just doesn't work. Where people said, "Yeah, if you shot that raw, you could have made it work." And I believe them. I just haven't done it. So
There's just so much more.
that's my next challenge. I took photography in college. We didn't have that, all that stuff back then. And my dad got into photography when he retired. So few people might have photography from my dad. Well, dad got it from me. But he was really into photography, and he used to just harass me. Son, you need to shoot in RAW. I said, Dad, I'm fine with JPEG. No, you don't understand. And I guess I've been hard-headed, but
Working for you, so.
but I need to do it. I need to sign up for your class. So
Is that tripod you move it?
yeah, so the guy that Paul Omni is a guy, hopefully you know Paul, but Paul is a gentleman that I met at Tuckahoe Creek Park. He's out there almost every morning when he can with his tripod at the end of the pier right there at that tree. And he goes to work after he leaves at 8 o'clock, gets there at sunrise and leaves at 8 o'clock to go to work. And he's the one who told me about his friend, and he uses nothing but a heavy tripod. So I started looking at it, $1,200, $1,500 for the heavy carbon ones. So I kept doing research, and I found this one on Amazon called ArtCise, ARTCISE. It was $300, $330 some dollars. Had great reviews, but sometimes the review, I don't necessarily believe them. Sometimes the reviews can be faked up. So I said, okay, I'm going to order it and see what it is. It was phenomenal. And I've been using it, and I use it sometimes with a gimbal. I use it sometimes with now I did have to buy the extra heads and stuff like that. And that was another $100. So, $400 versus $1,500, $2,000 is a huge difference. But that tripod is rock solid. It is wind blowing. When wind's blowing with my other one, the little flimsier things, it's just, they're always shaking and trying to do Milky Way pictures with 13-second exposures and things like that. It just wasn't as good. So I found this to be a huge advantage. That picture of the deer with the 1/25th of a second at f6.3, ISO was like 100, 125. If I had just a flimsy tripod, it wouldn't have worked. That other tripod caused it. And of course, the deer was standing perfectly still. And that's obviously, you got to have that. But that tripod, I have all of a sudden, I go to Tuckahoe Creek, and a tree is not that close. It's probably as far away from here to the front door. So many of you know that tree. I don't really get the feather detail that I would like to get from the dock to that tree until I started using that tripod. Especially early in the morning. If it's a bird and it's not moving, I can get the ISO down to 100. I can shoot it at 1/20th of a second, 1/25th of a second, 1/15th of a second, f6.3, and it looks like that bird was 10 feet in front of me. It's amazing. But that tripod made the difference. So it's a little heavier. But for its size, it's not a heavy tripod.
You go out to shoot the bridge, you're waist deep in water, you wearing waders or?
No, I don't only do it when the water's low. I only do it when the water's warm. And I should wear a life jacket because it's at my age, I could slip and fall and at any age, frankly, for that matter. But I'm not as, I told somebody earlier when before we started is my brain is still a kid, but my body's not reacting the same. So I have to remember that, I'm not as agile as I used to be. I'm not as quick. I was getting out of a kayak this past week. I was out trying some different kayaks and it's one of those really, really tight ones. You kind of get in a little place, couldn't get out. And trying to get out, I flipped the thing over and flipped over into water. A few years ago, I wouldn't have done that, but I just don't have it what I used to have. And, but I'm certainly enjoying the fact that I can still do a lot of things.
When you're in a kayak taking pictures, are you using your camera? Or your
No, I'm afraid to take a camera out. I use my iPhone. And then the last time I was out on going from Pony Pasture to Reedy Creek, all of a sudden my phone started going beep, beep, beep. And the guy was with, what is that? I said, I don't know, I've never heard it do that. I looked at it, it's calling 911. I had somehow hit the buttons to call SOS. And it also sent a distress message to my wife. And it shows where my location was in the middle of the river. And she's a nurse at Chippenham Hospital. So she called me and wants to know what's going on, somehow the wrong buttons got hit in my little life jacket vest.
All right, well, I guess if there are no more questions, thank you. Wonderful presentation. I'm sorry, what? A wonderful presentation. I thank you and look forward to meeting you either at the river or at the Tuckahoe Creek, one of my favorite places.
So my question is, when you go and take those pictures on Browns Island, don't they close that bridge and shut the gate at dark?
Pasture Bridge?
Yeah.
No,
No.
24/7. That's how it's graffiti.
I think he's asking about the footbridge.
Yeah, the bridge go 24 hours a day.
That's your bridge.
That bridge is open up 24 hours a day.
That's the one that's underneath.
Underneath Lee Bridge. Yeah.
And then I think you told me once that you have
Hollywood. Yeah, Hollywood closes at 6, 5 in the winter time. They open at like 8. So you miss the sunrise and you miss the sunset. They contacted me one day and said, I saw some of your stuff on Instagram or Facebook. I don't remember. Maybe we use it in our newsletter or whatever. I said, sure. And then I said, matter of fact, I'm your neighbor. So if you need anything, let me know and I'll be happy to, shoot it for you. And then I started doing that and kind of, I was their go-to photographer. Their price was right. They didn't complain about that. And then I said, I really would like to get in there in the morning and the evening because it's a lot of missed opportunities. So they gave me a letter of authorization. They introduced me to the security people and he's allowed them here 24 hours a day. So.
Cool.
And
Do the presentation. Yep.
thank you.
I think you convinced me, I'm sorry, I think you convinced me to order a new iPhone 14. I think you convinced me to order a new iPhone 14 because I've always been, like you, like I'll go down to the water and I'm here's my, $5,000, $6,000 worth of camera equipment. And no, I ain't doing it.
This year, underneath the Atlantic Coastline Bridge, Parks and I hiked down there with my wife and she reluctantly went with us and she saw me starting to walk in the water with my good camera. Honey, don't do that. Don't do that. And I said, okay, I'm not.
I'm sorry, right?
Sorry. Yes.
We would like to thank you for this wonderful presentation
Thank you.
to the club. And for that, we'd like to give you the wonderful Richmond Digital Photo Club travel mug.
Thank you very much.
Sounds like you do a lot of traveling. And also a little something else.
Thank you so much. I wasn't expecting that.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, that is great. Thank you. Absolutely. So do we have photo share?
Yes.
Okay, we have photo share,
I'm gonna.
which is, it's kind of like what we do at the end of every
Yeah.
meeting, people just show. Hey, one thing, I think the James River Association.
Friends of James River.
Friends of James River, I think we're doing Artspace, is doing a collaboration. It's either the James River Association- Artspace. Okay. With James River Association, Friends.
Must be the James River Association. Friends of James River, not by what it is.
All right, we're starting with last month that we didn't get to photo share. I believe it's-
But
Frank, this is one of yours.
yeah.
It's Frank. No, I thought, did Frank leave?
No, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, I was taken a long time ago with either Kodachrome or Ektachrome. I can't remember which, with my trusty Nikon FE2. Long ago. I don't remember. It was so long ago, and I didn't record the the lens or lens settings. But over when the COVID first broke out, and I sort of consigned myself indoors. I went back and to my slide collection of thousands of slides, and decided to digitize a lot of them. It's very time intensive to do that, but I had time since I wasn't going out, and I came across this photo I had taken in Pennsylvania, looking out over the Appalachians in that area, and it was a lovely blue hour time frame, and digitized it, and there it is.
This is one of Jim Savage's. He's not Vatican tonight. This is one of mine. Oh, yeah, the theme was night and low light, I believe, last month, yeah. And this was on Riverview. The Coleman Bridge.
That's neat.
The little milk.
Shooting started, right?
There's an airplane. That's
Oh,
an airplane.
oh, don't tell me that. Looks like a shooting star.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
that's me. I've been experimenting with ICM, intentional camera movement. And with this, it's all done in camera. Relatively longer exposure, and you move the camera, and you get lucky sometimes, but there's a lot of misses, but it's kind of fun. Again, camera movement, intentional camera movement up and down this time. And I have no idea why the bottom is kind of purpley, because it's just kind of dirt there, but that's what I got when I moved the camera up and down. That's also me, something different.
wow.
Just a picture, I forget where I took it. Like Frank, I think I was looking through some old pictures since I hadn't, not getting out all that much, and did that.
Oh, Nancy, can you hear me?
Yes,
was wondering, that's a combination of black and white and color, right?
Yes,
Okay, that's really cool.
yeah, you convert it and then you mask out what you want to bring back.
Great.
So Nancy, on that shot, did you just do, take the picture and then physically move back? Or you moved your camera back?
Yes, I found that moving forward was less steady than moving back for me. I guess it'd be different for everybody.
Cool.
Another one, just same idea. This intentional camera movement. You just never know what you're going to get. And sometimes I can hold the camera steady.
Did you put that frame, Nancy, on your photo elements and you framed it for Topaz?
No, I probably did that frame in Topaz Studio too,
Okay.
probably.
Oh,
Peter,
yeah, that's me. I was out for a drive in one of those rainstorms and thought that would make an interesting picture. Not recommended you do that while you're driving, but it came out. Oh, this was from one of our shoots at the airport. I like the little plane and the ominous clouds. Oh, I think that's an iPhone shot at the West End Antique Mall. I just like the combination of colors. A cathedral shot downtown, converted to black and white. I kind of like the ominous feeling of the black and white. That was a youngster at one of our church activities, and I think I managed to get his eye just at the right moment. That's at the Science Museum. Those of you who come tomorrow, you'll probably be able to see the same thing. It's an array of bottles of different colors. I have no idea why, but I just thought it was an interesting pattern. Another airport shoot. There is a spot out there where you can get the planes as they're right overhead as they're coming in. And I, again, like the black and white version of this much better than the color. One of our local cemeteries, I can't remember exactly which one, Holy Cross, I think they have a section devoted to nuns who have died. And once again, the black and white, I think, carries much more punch than the color did.
all of last month. Start with this month. Yeah. It's
The red one?
no, that's.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that's good. Change.
Okay, this was I have an antique car in Livingston. transportation detail. It's our newsletter theme, but that's what I did. That's. Yeah. Boats down in Williamsburg. We can go through these fast. I put too many.
All right.
Boats down at Hopewell. The Benjamin Harrison Bridge from Hopewell.
On that shot, Leo, did you do any kind of super slow shutter to get that?
It was fairly slow, yes. It was early morning, so I forget, I'd have to look. And this is the collapsed tunnel. This is the eastern edge, eastern end of the collapsed railroad tunnel under, was it Government Hill, whatever that is. Okay. The Keystone Truck and Tractor Museum, if you've all been there, what a great place. I love that. Okay. Power plant in Hopewell that's uses biofuels. These are trucks loaded with wood chips getting emptied.
Wow.
My first car.
Oh, wow.
A 1954 Nash Statesman. I could go on for an hour about this thing. I took this back in like 1973 or 4 with an old Samoka 35mm camera with triumphs. It was great. Oh, here's another old one. This was a construction auction that I was involved in back in the early 70s. Another one with that same Samoka camera. Here's another old one. This is Erie Lackawanna Railroad train, commuter train coming past one of the many chemical plants in northern New Jersey where I grew up. Okay. Kayaks at Westmoreland State Park. Okay. Lake Champlain Ferry in the winter. Virginia Museum of Transportation, one of the many steam locomotives they've got there. Another shot of a steam locomotive. The train station from by the graveyard. Okay. Virginia Beach, bicycle going past, obviously. Okay. Mayo's Bridge, we've all taken pictures of Mayo's Bridge. Okay. How is this transportation details? If you've ever driven to Florida, you've all seen the damn billboard, so I have to stick that one in there. Oh, the Edmund Pettus Bridge. I don't need to trivialize the importance of this bridge by putting it with transportation details, but I thought it would be interesting to get a look at it from into Selma. This is another old picture of railroad bridge over the Hackensack River in Lyndhurst, New Jersey, 1972 or 3. Route 23 by in Southwest Virginia, the $1 million bridge that they put in there and get around this. It's a lovely place to go. The Powell Valley overlook. If you get a chance to get all the way down there, I recommend it. Okay. Virginia Military Aviation Museum in Virginia Beach, another place I highly recommend. It's not too far from the ocean front, maybe a 20-minute drive just past the aquarium. Okay. This is the bridge over the Rappahannock in Fredericksburg. It's the same style as the other one. It's the same railroad line. You can find these
arched bridges all up and down the East Coast. I think they use the same design.
Leo, did you put a filter on that, or was that in the fall when you took that?
That was late in the evening, golden hour, and I probably played with the color a little bit. It was very nice and still, so kind of a reflection on that. Okay, that's the Virginia Transportation Museum again. Studebaker, you gotta love that. That's when they really made cars. Okay. The old railroad station in Petersburg. Okay. Locomotives in Hopewell, this is down by the, there's a factory in Hopewell where you can go in the morning and get that nice golden light. Okay. Everybody knows the Manchester Bridge. I'm walking across the bridge. And someday we need to all go out on my yacht, but that's not it.
Yeah.
Okay, the reason I wasn't at the last meeting is I was in Scotland on a tour. And this is the view from the hotel window, the first place that we stayed in Glasgow. We got there on October 5th after having to travel through Frankfurt to get there. Next. This is one of the places we went in Glasgow. This is the Kelling Grove Art Museum, and Museum and Gallery, which was really quite impressive. And that's actually a pipe organ there against the wall. It was a huge old building. It was really nice. Next, and that's the outside of it. That's Kelvin Grove, and the statue is of Saint Mungo, who founded Glasgow, and we saw a cathedral that he also founded. It was from like the 1100s. He was there. And this is the cathedral. That's the oldest church in Scotland. And it's I think it's the Glasgow Cathedral. And the photograph was taken from a very large cemetery that's on the hill next to it called the Necropolis. I think it's a great name for a cemetery, Necropolis. But that was the old church. It was originally founded in the 1100s and founded by Saint Mungo. From there, we went on up into the Highlands, and this is a little town called Luss. And everything was very lush and green, and the flowers were really impressive. This is somebody's house there as we were walking in order to get to a place where we're going to stop and then go to lunch. Next was another old church, and I'm not sure how old this church is, but the gravestone in the front that has flowers in front of it, it's still an active graveyard. Somebody was buried there in 2021, so it's still active. Next, okay, so from there we went up into the Highlands, and this is called the Three Sisters. These three peaks. It's near a town called Glencoe, which is the site of a famous massacre between the MacDonalds and the Campbell clan. And but this was a great scene up there. Very beautiful scene where we had a place where we could pull off, and that's about, I think, an 11-shot panorama I did to get that. And after that,
Excuse me, Tom, did you carry your tripod with you?
I carried a tripod. I didn't use it. I was going to, and for this, I was at the bus stop. We got out, and I basically just took pictures.
So it was either handheld or 11-shot?
Yeah.
You know, wow.
Yeah. And so after that last photograph was taken, we got to the little town we were going to, Fort William, and had dinner, and I felt like I was coming down with a cold. So the next morning I tested myself and I had COVID. So at that point, I was out of the tour. I had to quarantine and separate and spent a couple nights in a hotel that didn't have room service. And then the tour group went off without me. They went off to some other places. And so I had to take a taxi to get to the next place I was going. And so I got the taxi driver to stop a couple of times so I could get out and take a few pictures because we were driving through some pretty nice scenery. So this is one of them. It was just a nice scene as we were heading up to the town that we were on our way to. Next. This is another picture I took while we were stopped. I just was able to walk down to a little overpass and got this picture of the stream that was flowing under the river or under the road there. So after spending a few days, and my wife came down with COVID too, so we were both quarantined, and we spent a few nights in a town called Aviation, where we couldn't really do anything. Then we had to take a train to get into Edinburgh. And so it was a 3-hour train ride. We finally got in. We were still separated from the tour group. They were there, but we couldn't do anything with them. But we did go and tour this castle. This is the Edinburgh Castle, which is up on a cliff. And this was from Edinburgh looking up at the castle, which was a really pretty cool place. Although when we went up to see it, there were so many tourists around, you couldn't get any decent pictures there. But this was just a shot from the street looking up at it. And on the last day there, they went off to a place called, I think, Holyrood, which is now where the Queen's body is. We decided not to go there. We took a walk to the Royal Botanical Gardens, which is a very old botanic gardens. And in the botanic gardens, there is one area that was basically set up as in memorial of the Queen Mother who died back in 2007. And it had some of the most amazing dahlias I'd seen, and they were all in full bloom. So I took dahlia photos that day. So that was my trip to Scotland.
Yeah.
COVID, probably we still have a lot of energy to get out and do things. The first few days we were very engaged. Okay.
Toward the end, we got out, we walked, and we did things. We did still trying to take it easy.
All right, that's mine. I call it celestial butterfly. You know me, you know what's going on there. This is an orb weaver spider that was in the cannon plant in my front yard, and I took a picture of it and I got it inside, and it was bright yellow and green, but when it went black and white, it kind of changed it. I like it, really like it better than black and white. And I saw my first hummingbird moth of this summer, not too long ago, and managed to get a picture of it, so.
That's a long hummingbird, right?
Yeah. That's all, just some bugs.
Who's the lead? Who's the orange?
It's not on the screen.
Well, I can't find a photo. That's
Who's not here?
Chuck.
Yep.
What's forward?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean.
Oh.
When you first.
There we go.
Okay, well, most of you have probably seen that locomotive. That's at the Science Museum. It's a very powerful machine. And I always like to take it. I got a lot of pictures of it. Seems like I always get hooked on taking pictures. This was a picture of a car that I took last Saturday. I belonged to a couple of model railroad clubs. I don't know who it belongs to, but one of the people in the club brought it. And it's spelled, I think it's CLENET.
That's what you have, yes.
Yeah, and it's originally what, French design, I guess, but it's a company that this man bought this company and decided to start making these cars again. This one in particular runs about $100,000. But what my wife noticed that was of particular interest is that it had an ashtray in it that's made of Waterford crystal. So that tells you a little bit about. This is somebody who asked a couple of months ago or a while back where I took some pictures of an old car. This was out of that place in Chesterfield County. Can't think of the name of it, but it's just in somebody's yard, farm yard. This was a car that I took up in Plymouth, Massachusetts. It was just in a garage, and I happened to be staying not far from there. And this gentleman came out, pulled it out of the garage, and was telling me how he rebuilt this entire car. And it's in great shape. This is another picture from that same farmyard where the tractor was. It's an old truck that has, I think it's some personality. The headlamps really, to me, look like a couple of eyes looking back. This was on the way to the homestead. When you go the back roads to Homestead, there's a railroad track in there, and right down in there was, as my wife and I were driving along, here was this big CSX locomotive just parked, just standing still, and I annoyed my wife again by one of those many stops of, boy, gonna get this, and so went up and got as close as I could without endangering myself, but there was nobody in there. And this is just a team of railroad right-of-way repair vehicles. And I don't know if you can, the screen doesn't show up, but up in the top kind of left-hand corner of that one, you see it's got these really bright lights. And you can see them all the way down in the daytime. Every one of those lights was brilliantly lit. And that was at the corner of Mobius and Huguenot Road. They were just building and putting in some new railroad ties.
I like the sticker.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're now obeying the 25 foot rule. Okay.
Okay. Everybody hear me?
Yep, yes.
Yeah, these are mine, obviously. This is the ferry that goes between Whidbey Island, Washington, and the mainland at Mukilteo. And I thought it was interesting because not only is it the ferry, but also there's an ambulance in the back. And this is a commercial airline that goes from island to island in the San Juan system of islands off of the state of Washington. Actually, this particular image was used by the website of the transportation company. I think it's Kenmore Air, and they land up there. It's an air. And that's Orca Island. This was at a farm, I've forgotten where, but I just thought it was so cool that this is obviously a retired tractor, but it's got all this green growing in it. Anyway, I thought it was kind of interesting looking. And this is at the Truck Museum. Just thought I'd play around a little bit with Photoshop and change the perspective, but I think it's a cool looking truck. And I think that's it.
We have 28 on this. Want to do it a whole next?
Sorry.
There's 28 more photos there. These are the ones that were emailed today.
Yeah, I think we have to vacate the room though.
Yeah, it's noon.
Yeah, it's coming
So
up.
I'll bring
Yeah,
that back.
it's 2 minutes to noon and we really need to
Yeah.
get the chairs put away and vacate.
Okay.
So I'll just hold over the remaining photo shares to next month.
Yeah.
Bill, thanks again. And everybody, we'll see you next month. Remember, we'll be down in Chesterfield. Have a good month. Thanks again, Bill.